If you like our short stories, please like, comment and subscribe. The room was cold, silent save for the faint hum of the magic that enveloped the ancient ruins. Harry stood at the centre of a circle of flickering runes, his heart pounding as he watched the impossible take shape. A figure began to materialise within the glowing sigils, not as the monstrous tyrant he had been led to believe, but as a man, weary and broken. "Tom Riddle," Harry whispered, his voice trembling. The figure opened his eyes. They were not the cold, red slits Harry had imagined, but human, piercing, intelligent, and filled with sorrow. Voldemort's voice, deep and hoarse, echoed through the chamber. "You have questions, Harry Potter. I have answers." Harry's wand was drawn, his hand unsteady. "Why should I trust you?" Tom took a step forward, the glow of the runes reflecting on his pale skin. "Because everything you've been told is a lie." He raised his hands, palms outward, in a gesture of surrender. "I did not come back to harm you. I came back to warn you." "Warn me?" Harry's voice was sharp, sceptical. "Warn me about what?" Tom's gaze bore into Harry's. "About Albus Dumbledore." The name struck Harry like a blow. Dumbledore, the paragon of wisdom and virtue, a beacon of hope. How could he possibly be the one to fear? "Lies," Harry spat, his voice rising. "You're trying to manipulate me." Tom's expression didn't waver. "You have no reason to believe me, but I ask you to listen. The truth will make itself clear." Harry hesitated. There was something in Tom's tone, something genuine. Reluctantly, he lowered his wand. Tom began his tale. He spoke of a young wizard, eager and brilliant, who discovered Dumbledore's dark ambitions. "He was not always the man you knew," Tom explained. "His hunger for control began early. He wove a web of manipulation, convincing the world of his benevolence while ensuring his rise to absolute power." "What does this have to do with you?" Harry asked. Tom's jaw tightened. "I tried to stop him. Everything I did, every decision I made was to protect the magical world from his tyranny. But his influence ran deep. He turned my resistance into a story of evil, a story the world believed." Harry's mind raced. Could this be true? Could the man he had revered as a saviour truly be the villain? "And the Horcruxes?" Harry pressed. Tom's shoulders sagged. "An accident. A byproduct of his cruelty. Each time he struck me down, each time he twisted my magic, fragments of my soul were torn away. I never meant to create them." Harry's heart ached with confusion and doubt. "If what you say is true, why didn't you fight back?" Tom's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I did. I died trying to protect your family from him, but even in death he won. He spun the story to paint me as the monster." Harry's knees buckled, and he sank to the ground. The weight of Tom's words crushed him. Could he have spent his entire life fighting for the wrong cause? "Why come back now?" Harry's voice was barely above a whisper. "Because you have the power to stop him," Tom said. "You are the one person he fears, the one person he could never fully control, but you need to see the truth before it's too late." Harry looked up at the man who had once been his greatest enemy. "What do I do?" Tom extended a hand. "We fight him, together." For a long moment, Harry stared at the offered hand, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Finally, he reached out, grasping it firmly. "Tell me everything." As their hands clasped, the glow of the runes intensified. Harry felt a surge of energy course through him as Tom began to weave a tale of deception, sacrifice and power. "Dumbledore's reign began with subtlety," Tom said, his voice low and steady. "He played the long game, building a network of loyalty through charm and calculated favours. When he couldn't win someone over, he destroyed them quietly, leaving no trace." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. "But the magical community sees him as a hero," he said, his voice cracking. "How could he hide something like that?" Tom's gaze was piercing. Because he controlled the narrative. His influence extended into every institution, every record. He ensured that no one would question his version of events. Harry's thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. He wanted to deny it, to hold on to the image of Dumbledore as a beacon of light, but a small voice inside him whispered that the pieces fit. Tom continued, his tone tinged with regret. "When I realised what he was doing, I tried to expose him, but I underestimated him. He used my anger against me, made it look like I was the threat." "And my parents?" Harry asked, his voice trembling. Tom's expression darkened. "I tried to save them, Harry. That night in Godric's Hollow, I fought to protect you and your family. Dumbledore was there. He killed them and made it look like my doing." The words struck Harry like a physical blow. Tears welled in his eyes as the foundation of his beliefs crumbled. Could it all have been a lie? "We don't have much time," Tom said. "He knows I've returned. He'll stop at nothing to silence me. We need allies, people who can see through his facade." Harry wiped his eyes, determination hardening his features. "Who?" Tom smiled faintly. "The ones he's wronged. Severus Snape, the Malfoys, and others who have felt the weight of his manipulation. Together, we can end his reign." As they prepared to leave the ruins, Harry felt a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. The journey ahead would be perilous, but for the first time, he felt as though he was fighting for the truth. The battle for the soul of the magical world had begun. The air in the Malfoy estate was thick with tension. Harry and Tom stood in the grand drawing room, their eyes locked on the figure before them. Severus Snape, his face pale but resolute, stared back, his dark eyes filled with suspicion. "You're asking me to believe that everything I've done was orchestrated by Dumbledore?" Snape's voice was sharp, his words cutting through the silence. Tom stepped forward, his tone calm but firm. "Not just you, Severus. All of us. He used our pain, our ambitions, our fears. He turned us into pawns." Harry watched as Snape's expression shifted, doubt flickering across his face. He took a deep breath, stepping closer. "Professor, you've always known there was something off. The way he always seemed to know too much, the way he controlled everything. Think about it." Snape's lips thinned, but he didn't respond. Instead, he gestured for them to continue. Tom's voice dropped, heavy with regret. "Dumbledore orchestrated my fall. He made me a villain to consolidate his power. But it's not just about me, it's about everyone he's manipulated. Lily, James, you, even Harry. He's woven a web so tight that no one's dared to question it." Harry felt his anger rising. "He's been using me my whole life, training me for some battle I didn't even understand, all the while pretending to care." Snape's gaze flicked to Harry, something unreadable in his eyes. Slowly he nodded. "If what you say is true, then we'll need proof. The wizarding world won't believe this without it." Tom's lips curved into a faint smile. "I thought you might say that." He reached into his robes and pulled out a small, shimmering vial. "This contains the memories he tried to erase, the truth about his plans, his manipulations, everything." Snape took the vial, his hands steady despite the gravity of the moment. "If this is real, it'll change everything." Tom's expression hardened. "It is real. But we'll need more than memories. We need witnesses, allies, people who felt his control firsthand." "The Malfoys," Harry said suddenly. "They've always been under his thumb, haven't they? Lucius's fall from grace, Narcissa's fear, Draco's." His voice faltered as he thought of Draco, the boy who had once been his rival, now a potential ally. Tom nodded. "They'll be wary, but they've suffered. Narcissa's desperation to protect her son. That kind of loyalty can be powerful." Snape's voice was sharp. "If we're to do this, we need to act quickly. Dumbledore won't stay idle. He'll sense the shift." "Then let's not waste time," Harry said, determination blazing in his eyes. The meeting with the Malfoys was tense. Narcissa's face was pale, her hands trembling as she listened to Tom's words. Lucius stood behind her, his expression stony, while Draco sat to the side, his gaze fixed on the floor. "You expect us to believe that Dumbledore is the villain?" Lucius's voice was low, dangerous. Tom met his gaze without flinching. "I expect you to listen. You've seen his power, his reach. You've felt the consequences of standing against him. Do you really think all of this is coincidence?" Narcissa's voice was a whisper. "And what would you have us do? Stand against him? He'll destroy us." Harry stepped forward, his voice steady. "He'll try. But together we can stop him. We have the truth. We have each other. That's more than he expects." Draco looked up then, his eyes meeting Harry's. For a moment there was silence. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm in?" Lucius turned to his son, his eyes narrowing. "Draco!" "No, father," Draco said, standing. "I'm tired of living in fear. If there's a chance to end this, to be free, then I'll take it." Narcissa reached out, placing a hand on her son's arm. Her voice was soft but resolute. "Then we'll stand with you." Lucius hesitated, his jaw tight. Finally he nodded. Very well, what's the plan? Tom's smile was grim. We expose him. We gather every piece of evidence, every ally we can find, and when the time comes we confront him, publicly. He thrives on secrecy. We'll take that away. The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. They reached out to others who had suffered under Dumbledore's shadow, gathering stories, memories, and allies. Each piece of evidence strengthened their case. Each new ally brought them closer to their goal. Harry found himself working side by side with Draco, the two of them setting aside years of rivalry in the face of a greater threat. There were moments of tension, but also moments of understanding. Slowly, grudgingly, they began to trust each other. Snape worked tirelessly, poring over the memories Tom had provided, uncovering the threads of Dumbledore's manipulations. Each discovery brought a mix of anger and determination, fueling their resolve. And through it all, Tom remained a steady presence. He guided them, his knowledge and experience invaluable. But there was also a weight to him, a sense of regret that never quite left his eyes. As the day of their confrontation drew closer, Harry felt a mix of fear and hope. They were taking on a man who had shaped the very fabric of their world, a man whose power seemed insurmountable. But they weren't alone. For the first time he felt the strength of unity, the power of standing together. The battle for the soul of the magical world was about to reach its climax. The day of reckoning arrived under a sky heavy with dark clouds. The gathered allies stood in a quiet corner of the Ministry of Magic, their expressions grim but resolute. Harry, Tom, and the others had chosen this place deliberately. The heart of wizarding governance would bear witness to their confrontation with Albus Dumbledore. The tension in the air was palpable as they stepped into the grand atrium. Magical windows showed a sunny day outside, an illusion crafted to maintain an air of normalcy. But inside, the shadows seemed to stretch longer, the air colder. Dumbledore stood at the far end of the hall, his blue eyes twinkling with feigned warmth as he greeted them. "Harry," Dumbledore said, his voice calm and measured. "And Tom, a surprise to be sure." Harry clenched his fist, stepping forward. "This ends today, Dumbledore. We know the truth." Dumbledore tilted his head, a smile playing on his lips. "The truth, you say? And what truth might that be?" Tom's voice was like steel. "The truth of your manipulations, your lies, your thirst for power. The truth you've hidden behind decades of deceit." The twinkle in Dumbledore's eyes dimmed slightly. "Bold accusations, but words alone are not enough to sway minds, as I'm sure you know." Harry raised his wand, and with a flick, a shimmering memory vial hovered into the air. "We have proof. Your actions, your schemes, everything you've tried to bury, will show everyone." Dumbledore's expression remained neutral, but his hand moved subtly, fingers curling ever so slightly. The air around him shimmered, and suddenly the room felt oppressively heavy. "Do you truly think you can stand against me?" Dumbledore's voice was soft, but carried a weight that sent a chill down Harry's spine. "I have dedicated my life to shaping the wizarding world. Everything I've done has been for the greater good." Tom stepped forward, his presence commanding. "No. Everything you've done has been for yourself. You've twisted lives, destroyed families, all to maintain your illusion of control." The gathered allies formed a semicircle around Harry and Tom, their wands at the ready. Among them stood Draco, Snape, Narcissa and Lucius, joined by others who had answered the call. Each of them had suffered in some way under Dumbledore's shadow, and their determination was palpable. Dumbledore's gaze swept over them, his expression unreadable. "So you've united in rebellion. Admirable, if misguided." He raised his hands, and the oppressive magic intensified, pressing down on them like a weight. But Harry stood firm. "You won't win. Not this time." With a flick of his wand, he unleashed the memories contained in the vial. They spilled into the air, swirling into a massive projection for all to see. The room filled with voices and images, scenes of Dumbledore's manipulations, his calculated betrayals, his true nature laid bare. Gasps filled the atrium as the gathered crowd, ministry workers, aurors and bystanders, watched the truth unfold. The illusion of Dumbledore's benevolence began to crumble, replaced by a collective understanding of the depth of his deception. Dumbledore's calm exterior cracked. "You think exposing me will change anything? People need someone to guide them, to protect them. Without me, chaos will reign." Tom's voice was resolute. "You've ruled through fear and lies. We'll rebuild on truth and unity." The battle erupted with a deafening roar. Dumbledore's magic was overwhelming, his spells precise and devastating. He wielded his power with the finesse of a master, forcing Harry and the others to fight with everything they had. Harry and Tom moved in tandem, their attacks synchronized as if they'd been fighting together for years. Around them, their allies engaged Dumbledore's loyalists, those still blinded by his charisma and falsehoods. Draco and Harry found themselves back-to-back at one point, deflecting spells and launching counterattacks. "Never thought I'd be doing this with you," Draco muttered. "Neither did I," Harry replied, a grim smile on his face. "But here we are." The tide began to turn as the memories continued to play, weakening Dumbledore's grip on his supporters. Some lowered their wands, stepping back as the weight of the evidence became undeniable. Others fought on, their loyalty unwavering despite the truth. Finally, it came down to Harry, Tom and Dumbledore. The atrium was in ruins, scorch marks and debris littering the floor. Dumbledore's robes were torn, his face a mask of fury. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "You think the world will follow you?" "They'll follow the truth," Harry said, his voice steady. "And the truth is, your time is over." With a final desperate spell, Dumbledore unleashed a surge of raw magic. Harry and Tom combined their efforts, their magic intertwining to form a shield that absorbed the attack. The force of it shattered the remnants of Dumbledore's control, leaving him vulnerable. Tom stepped forward, his wand aimed at Dumbledore. For a moment there was silence. Then, in a voice filled with both sorrow and resolve, he said, "Your reign ends here." A final spell struck Dumbledore, and he collapsed to the ground, his power extinguished. The atrium fell silent, the echoes of the battle fading into stillness. Harry turned to Tom, his chest heaving. "It's over." Tom nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Yes, it is." The gathered crowd erupted into murmurs, the weight of what had transpired settling over them. Slowly the allies regrouped, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We have a lot of work to do," Harry said, looking around at the devastation. "But we'll do it together," Tom replied. "This is the beginning of a new era, one built on truth." As they stood amidst the ruins of the old order, Harry felt a glimmer of hope. The battle had been won, but the true challenge, rebuilding the world, was just beginning.